Hello, beautiful people. Happy Saturday and happy weekend. Welcome to your astrological forecast for the upcoming week, where I'm going to be talking about the major aspects that are taking place in this upcoming week and put the themes together to make some sense out of it. But first, I'm just going to mention what's been going on in the last couple of days because it's a very positive start of the weekend. So we had the trine between Sun and the North Node that took place on Thursday night, Friday early morning, depending where you are in the world. And this is something that we were already tapping into during the last lunation, the new moon in Sagittarius, because it was trined by the North Node. Therefore, whatever is happening in your life right now, whatever is happening in the collective, it's actually supporting us on our path going forward, even though it might not feel that way right now. Also last night, Friday night, Saturday early morning, we had the Mars trine to Chiron. Mars at the moment is the ruler of Chiron, and Mars is also the ruler of North Node. So again, this is supporting us in this process of moving forward. Chiron is our wounded healer. I actually spoke a lot about what this wounding represents in my practical application of astrology video, which I released yesterday. I think it's one of the best channeling work I have done so far. So if you are curious to hear, I recommend you to check it out. It's on my YouTube channel. Either way, Mars making a trine to Chiron is an auspicious aspect which is supporting us in this process of moving forward, moving into this new direction, the direction of Aries, new beginnings, when you're following your own instinctual desire of what is it that you came here to do, what is your purpose, is the path of self-discovery. The next conjunction between Chiron and Mars, of course, the conjunction between the two happens every 2 years. The next one will be taking place at the end of May 2024. And just before that, Mars will actually conjunct the North Node. So the new cycle will begin. Okay, then tonight, which is Saturday night or Sunday early morning, depending where you are in the world again, Sun is going to make an exact square to Neptune. Again, this is an aspect which was already present during the Sagittarius new moon because it was squared by Neptune. And between Sun and Neptune, this is what we call a first quarter square. So Neptune is in the first quarter square in relation to Sun, and this is a crisis in action. So throughout this transit of Sun in Sagittarius, a lot of belief systems were being illuminated, a lot of stories that we are attached to, and many of them actually are no longer working for us, don't hold a meaning, or makes us feel disempowered, victimized. So now with this square, there might be a sense of pressure, which I'm sure for many people is already present, helping us to understand what we need to release or what we need to transcend, because it's limiting us, it's not allowing us to move forward, because as we know, Neptune is the current ruler of Saturn in Pisces, which is the structure of reality, and Saturn is still the current ruler of Pluto, the evolution. So the next conjunction between Sun and Neptune, which will close this cycle, well, technically and technically not, because then obviously Neptune will be behind the Sun, but the next conjunction between the two will take place on 17th of March, which is just before the spring, or well, depending where you are in the world, again, which hemisphere, but before the next eclipse season will kick off, because the first eclipse is going to be on March 25th, which is the lunar eclipse in Libra. So the Sun-Neptune conjunction, which will be an ending of a cycle in a Pisces season, and is Neptune, which is the endings, will happen on March 17th. So interestingly, we're also going to end this week and start a new one with Moon in Pisces, if it wasn't enough of a closure time. And obviously being in December, we know we are closing the calendar year as well, and actually the Sagittarius season, because Sun is just about to move into Capricorn. So we are ending this week with Sun in the sign of Pisces, and starting Monday with Sun, Moon in the sign of Pisces, and starting Monday with Moon in the sign of Pisces as well. Another thing that's going to take place on Monday is that Mercury is going to make its second trine to Jupiter. As we know, Mercury is now retrograde, therefore Mercury is backtracking and making, as I mentioned prior to Mercury going retrograde, Mercury is going to make a repeated aspect to multiple planets, just as we had with Venus over the summer. When Venus was retrograde, she was making 3 aspects to like Jupiter, Uranus, Chiron, right? And now we have the same thing going on with Mercury. So Mercury already had its first trine with Jupiter on December 8th. During this time, Mercury was direct, Jupiter was still retrograde. Jupiter has been in retrograde since beginning of September and will remain retrograde until the end of this year. So the second trine is taking place on Monday. Now they are both retrograde, they are both reevaluating. And then the last trine will take place on January 19th, which is when Mercury will be back in the sign of Capricorn after its retrograde back into Sagittarius and then going direct again. So at this time they will be both direct. So they will know something they don't know at the moment, because at the moment is the reevaluation process. Okay, then on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, depending where you are in the world, Moon will be moving into the sign of Aries, new beginning. And then on Thursday, the 21st, we are experiencing solstice, because on Thursday night, Friday early morning, depending where you are in the world, Sun will move into the sign of Capricorn, which will mark the beginning of the Capricorn season. Now, Capricorn is a cardinal sign. That's why this is a beginning of a new season. So in this case, Northern Hemisphere for us will be winter. In the Southern Hemisphere, it is summer. So before that actually takes place, we're going to have a Venus opposition, exact opposition with Uranus. Again, this is something which we already had active during the last lunation, this new moon in Sagittarius. And we also had all the other planets opposing Uranus during Scorpio season, Mars, Sun, all of them. So this is something which again could bring us an illumination with regards to relational topics, because Venus is the rule of the South Node in Libra, that might be shocking or might be disruptive, or might help us to realize something which was hiding in our subconscious and then becoming conscious of it. So all that said, prior to Sun moving into the sign of Capricorn, we'll have Venus opposing Uranus, and also Mercury making its second sextile to Saturn. So this is second one of the aspects Mercury will be repeating 3 times. Mercury made its first sextile to Saturn on December 2nd. And obviously at the time Mercury was direct. And then the third one will take place on January 18th. And at this time, obviously, they will be both direct as well. So again, I want to dive deeper into these aspects when I stop naming them. But then Thursday night, Friday morning, Moon will move into the sign of Taurus. And as I already mentioned, Sun is moving into the sign of Capricorn on December 21st night. So for some of you, it might be December 22nd morning. And Sun will remain in a sign of Capricorn until January 20th, 2024. And this is a very, very important day. Why? Because just before that takes place, literally 20 minutes before, Sun will make its conjunction to Pluto on the 29 degrees 59 minutes of Capricorn. So Sun will never make a conjunction to Pluto in Capricorn in our lifetime. It will never happen again, because unless you are very old. So this is very important, because this is literally marking the end of the cycle that is between Sun and Pluto, while Pluto was transiting through the sign of Capricorn since 2008. So this is very important day to pay attention to, also because on this day, not just Sun is going to move into the sign of Aquarius, but also Pluto himself will be moving into the sign of Aquarius 10 hours after Sun. So January 20th is an important day to pay attention to. But anyway, now we are just about to enter Capricorn season, so we have a month to enjoy Sun in a sign of Capricorn, which is a feminine receptive sign and is the sign of the new beginning, cardinal sign. So then on Friday, Mercury will conjunct Sun, obviously Mercury retrograde, on 0 degrees and 39 minutes of Capricorn. And the last conjunction, because they conjunct every 2-3 months, the last conjunction took place when Mercury was also retrograde, and that was in Virgo season on September 6th this year, on 13 degrees 39 minutes of Virgo. And the next conjunction between Sun and Mercury will actually happen in Pisces season on 28th of February. And this is again very important day to pay attention to, because apart from Sun making a conjunction to Mercury on that day, Pisces season endings is because Mercury is also going to have its conjunction with Saturn on the same day, literally right after. So the cycle will end there as well. Saturn, Pisces, endings. Mercury is how we identify reality. So again, I'm going to go more into this with regards to Mercury retrograde topic. And also Sun himself will be conjuncting Saturn on that day. This is 28th of February next year. So yeah, last conjunction between Sun and Mercury was in September in a Virgo season. Adjustments, right? Adjustments, learning and adjusting. Now it's in a Capricorn, new beginnings, and then it's going to be in Pisces again, which is again a mutable sign. So something to pay attention to, because all these signs are feminine signs, signs of receptivity, signs of intuition, reconnection to yourself. So this is Friday, 22nd. And then right after, on Saturday the 23rd, Mercury will move back into it will retrograde back into the sign of Sagittarius. And that's where it's going to remain until January, and January 13th actually. And then on Sunday, Moon will move into the sign of Gemini, and on Sunday we have Sun making a sextile to Saturn. Sun during the Capricorn season will be ruled by Saturn, because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. So Sun will be making a sextile to Saturn, and as I already mentioned, the conjunction between the two of them will take place on February 28th. And then I'm just going to mention, because it's important, on the Christmas day, on the 25th, we'll have the Mars trine to the North Node. So we just had a Sun trine to the North Node, literally just now, yesterday, and Mars trine to Chiron, wounded healer. And then on Christmas day, on the 25th, we'll have Mars trine to the North Node, and he's the ruler of the North Node. As I said, the conjunction between two will take place in May 19th, and also Venus will make a trine to Neptune. So why is this fascinating? Because Mars is the ruler of the North Node, and Venus is the ruler of the South Node, the resolution node, what we are moving away from, what we are wanting to build up on, like another layer of consciousness. And it's making a trine to Neptune, which is the endings. So it's interesting how these archetypes are showing up. The ruler of the North Node making a trine to the North Node, and the ruler of the South Node making a trine to Neptune. What are we leaving behind? What are we dissolving? And the Venus-Neptune conjunction will take place in April 3rd, in obviously Pisces. So anyway, so this is what I've got when it comes to, another thing which I think is very peculiar to mention for everybody, just to, if you're geeky like me and like this kind of little things, interesting thing again for me, what popped up for me was that during Christmas time, Moon is in a sign of Gemini, and during New Year's Eve, and actually we will enter a new year, 2024, with Moon in a sign of Virgo. So isn't that interesting? They are both ruled by Mercury. Mercury is retrograde, and also they are the mutable signs. The signs of flexibility, that things are not what you think they are. Like reality as we know, it's shifting. It's shifting. Nothing is set in a stone, and nothing is to hold to be the same. Very likely even like 1 month from now, but for sure 1 year from now, this world will, look slightly differently, I would assume, or we will perceive it differently because of what will be going on with Pluto and everything else. So anyway, so this is what I got with regards to the nodes, but what I really want to focus on is what is coming up for me as the theme. So as I already talked about in my multiple videos, it's the storylines, timelines, and choices, the choices we can make. And also based on what I was sharing in my practical application of astrology yesterday with regards to what is coming up for many people with regards to conditioning. And this is especially connected to conditioning of the Pisces age, this lower vibration of Virgo, of unworthiness, not deserving because we're not perfect, like feeling guilty and ashamed, and all these kind of lower emotions which we inherited. It's been passed from generation to generation, and we've been conditioned to believe this about ourselves, about us as human race being imperfect, therefore something wrong with us. But I mean, who is perfect and who defined what that really means, right? That is a good question to ask. But so there's been all these topics coming up, especially I would say since this new moon in Sagittarius, because now the moon is gaining light. Of course, moon, while she's in a sign of Aquarius, she will make a sextile to the point where was the new moon, the 20 degrees, 40 minutes. So we are starting to gain light, we are starting to get some understanding, and now of course Mercury being retrograde, Mercury is making us to reevaluate. Mercury starting retrograde in Capricorn, which is the cardinal sign, and now going backwards all the way to Sagittarius, which is a mutable sign, is telling, because it's saying, okay, there is a certain way we identify reality which we thought it's solid. It's like, this is how it is. This is the truth. This is the structure. This is what makes us feel safe and secure. But as we know, now Saturn is in a sign of Pisces since March this year, which means that the reality as we know is not really looking as safe and secure and, like as solid as it did used to, especially like prior to, especially like, going back 5 years or something when Saturn was in a sign of Capricorn, that's potentially where we might have still felt like, yeah, it's kind of okay, right? And then Saturn moving to the sign of Aquarius, and different story, right? 2020, 2021, we know what's been going on. So yeah, 2022, even so, yeah, things are changing for sure. So the fact that Mercury starting retrograde in Capricorn, which is saying that, okay, well, Mercury in Capricorn, came here to identify, well, let me notice, because Mercury is the function of identifying, gathering information, like, okay, let me look at this world, let me look at this reality, which I perceive as solid. And now what am I finding? Well, I'm finding things are not really that solid anymore, because Saturn is in Pisces. Mercury made the first sextile to Pisces. Mercury made a trine to Jupiter. Jupiter was retrograde already. Well, Jupiter has been retrograde for a while, but that, I'm talking about the first aspect that Mercury make. And let's go backtrack to the first of the multitude of the aspects Mercury is going to be making. It actually all started with the square to Neptune, which was on the full moon in Gemini on the 27th of November. We had a full moon in Gemini, during which time Mercury made the exact square to Neptune. And this square is going to take place 2 more times. The second time is actually right after the full moon in Cancer, full moon in Cancer. So it's going to be taking place on the 27th of December, I believe. So that's obviously Mercury retrograde, back into the sign of Sagittarius. So it all started kind of like, okay, there is a square between Mercury and Neptune. What does this mean? Well, this is a crisis in consciousness square, the last quarter square between Mercury moving closer towards Neptune, right? Neptune is in Pisces. So what is it saying? Well, there is something that needs to shift. Something that needs to shift because it lost meaning. What is it that needs to shift? Well, it was Sagittarius, right? Mercury was in Sagittarius. It was a full moon in Gemini, which means Sun was in Sagittarius. At the time, everybody was in Sagittarius, right? Mars is still in Sagittarius. Mars will remain in Sagittarius until January. So obviously Mars has something to show us, because Mars is like, like you say, the Sagittarius is the arrow, but Mars is the one pointing the arrow, It's how Pluto acts consciously. It's making us to pay attention to something. And like I said, Mars just made a trine to Chiron last night, and Mars is making a trine to North Node next week, right? Next Monday. Monday, not this coming Monday. I'm talking about Monday, the Christmas day, Monday 25th. So all that said, it's still active. It's already been active during the new moon in Sagittarius. So what is this showing us is that, well, Mars pointing to Sagittarius, and from there trining its own North Node, ruled by Mars at the moment in Aries, which is saying we collectively are going into new direction, is inevitable. We have no choice. We have to go in a new direction because the evolution requires it, because there is a sextile between Aquarius and Aries. Actually, Pluto, just as it enters Aquarius for the third, last time, at the end of 2024, will make a positive aspect to North Node. South, both. It will sextile the North Node and it will trine the South Node. This will be in December, at the end of December 2024. Obviously, we have a mile to go between now and then, because there is a lot going on between now and end of 2024. However, what is this showing us is that this Pluto transit through the sign of Aquarius, it's saying we need to move forward. There is no going back. Saturn is in Pisces, Neptune is in Pisces, all of these planets are going to move into the masculine sign, Saturn and Neptune are going to move into Aries in 2026, right? Uranus is going to move into Gemini, which is masculine sign. It's the sign of the air. It's the sign of the choice. It's the sign of communication. Funnily enough, ruled by Mercury. And what is Mercury doing? Oh, Mercury is retrograde. Well, interesting, because guess what? At the same time, we have this opposition, Venus and Uranus. And we just had opposition between, Mars and Uranus in Scorpio season. And all these interesting things are happening in the sky. So when we put all this together, what is it really telling us, showing us, trying us to help us understand? Is that there are stories that we are still attached to, Jupiter, story ruler, Jupiter rules Sagittarius is in Taurus, we are attached to them because of survival, because in a past incarnation, what was the main thing? To survive. We incarnated to have an experience, but the main thing was like, okay, how not to get eaten by a tiger? Like, how can we survive? In the previous incarnations for many, many hundreds of years, we just had to survive. We had to compromise on many things, our authenticity, our values, our sense of individuation. There were people who did that, who individuated and were authentic. Most of them were being classed as crazy and cast out of the society. And many of them, then had to go and fetch for themselves. And sometimes they survived, sometimes they didn't. That's why, like some of us light workers, like thinking a little bit different way, there's still this underlying fear, like, what if I'll be prosecuted again? What if I'll be stoned or burned on a stake, like a witch or something? There is still this memory, the soul memory, and also the collective memory of that, because, these things took place. So anyway, so with this, what's going on right now with all this Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, what stories are we attached to? That, Mercury is now trine in Jupiter, second time this week, coming week, and saying like, okay, well, we need to reevaluate this. We need to reevaluate it because things are not as solid as we thought. A lot of them actually lost meaning. A lot of them make us feel like we don't really have much choice, and who wants to be now in the 21st century with Pluto moving into Aquarius? Who want to feel like they don't have choice? Who want to feel like, I want to give all my power to someone else to tell me how to live my life, who to be, how to dress, what to believe, and what to think? There are people like that, and no judgment, because we all came here to have an experience that is whatever the soul wants to experience, right? But for a lot of people, this is not the case. This is not the case. People want to feel, that they can be themselves, they can be authentic, whatever that means to them, and they can believe what they want to believe and live their life in according to their values, whatever that means for them, right? So now we have this little conflict going on here, because obviously there is this structure of the society, the way we were being conditioned, especially, through the Pisces age, like, you are imperfect, what do you know? Go and ask expert, right? The system, which was like a pyramid, somebody is the boss, somebody is the one telling what are the rules for everybody else underneath, and everybody else just follows, not asking any questions, right? Because apparently this one person is smarter or more precious or more valuable than you are. Well, that is not really the case for Aquarius, because what it is, two parallel line. Aquarius is saying about equality, it's the individuation. Yeah, we are not all the same. We don't know the same thing. We can't necessarily do the same thing. We don't have the same skills or offerings, but that which you have to offer is exactly what you came here to contribute, is the thing that is unique to you, which is exactly what's needed, because you are that piece of puzzle that is needed to complete the picture, the tapestry of the human collective consciousness. So anyway, so technically what's happening here with all these aspects that are taking place this week, it's like eroding our attachment to the belief that things are solid, that there is this truth, that we should be all operated by, which is being determined by apparently us sharing all the same values and wanting to survive. And now this is being questioned, because we have Mercury squared Neptune. Then Mercury made a sextile to Saturn, like high five, sextile is a supporting aspect, which is saying, okay, Saturn, I guess you being my ruler here in Capricorn, there is something I need to redefine, because I'm just about to go retrograde, because Saturn is like, well, my friend, I'm in Pisces. What I'm trying to help people understand is that things are dissolving, because they lost meaning, because they don't support us in this process of feeling empowered, because they don't make us feel that you are the authority of your life and you have the agency to make the choices, because actually you are and always have been the creator of your reality. but it's all the stories we are attached to that might help us believe that or not. Because whatever you believe, you find the proof for, whatever that is, it doesn't matter what it is. So anyway, so this Mercury made a sextile to Saturn, at the beginning of the month, and now, ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. And now Mercury is stationed retrograde. And now Mercury, and also in the meanwhile, Mercury made a trine to Jupiter. Jupiter is still retrograde. Jupiter saying, I'm still here reevaluating what is this, humans' attachment to their values, and is that really what is still the truth for them, individually, because Taurus is you, Taurus is very personal, it's ruled by Venus at the end of the day. So, this Jupiter made a trine to Mercury. Now Mercury is stationed retrograde. So now Mercury is going backwards, so it's like, I need to redefine, I need to reevaluate, I need to look at this again, I need to look at this again, because in order for us to move forward, we need to look at this one more time, because something doesn't quite fit here, it doesn't quite feel right, because also with this Sagittarius new moon, there is a new story that is being birthed, which we will know more about by the end of May. By which point Jupiter will be moving to, Gemini right after that. So now we have this retrograde, and as you can see with the aspects that are taking place this week, starting with the second trine between Mercury and Jupiter, now both retrograde, it's helping us to reevaluate, because I'm sure in the past week, since the new moon in Sagittarius, topics are coming up. Topics are coming up because, at the end of the day, that new moon was squared by Neptune. Neptune is saying, okay, well, there are a lot of things that are being dissolved at the moment, and then obviously personal planet making a connection with this subconscious planet, things are becoming personal and conscious, right? So that's what I mean. Like I was sharing in my personal application of astrology yesterday, personal practical application of astrology, personal story share, there has been reappearing topics coming up, a lot of that with regards to our relationships, because that's where the South Node is. And during the new moon, Venus, as the rule of the South Node, was making an opposition to Jupiter as the ruler of the new moon. So, hello. So a lot of stories are coming up. That are helping us to see and understand that, I don't really like this experience. It's not really in alignment with my values. Hopefully it's not in hopefully you understand it, that you deserve better, that it's not aligning with your sense of self-worth. This Jupiter in Taurus helping us to understand that. Also Uranus in Taurus, helping us to break us open from this attachment to this stuff, to this story again. I don't know what other word to use for it, but this belief system, this perception that other people, South Node in Libra, are determining your value. Other people are the ones that decide what you're worth, or decide what you came here to do, or decide what should be the meaning for you, which is literally how we were being conditioned, how we were being programmed. We were being programmed to believe this is how it is. This is the agreed value system. Culture orientation, religion orientation obviously differs, depends where you are from which part of the world, and but generally people from certain part of the world, they share certain same values, same orientation with regards to how we perceive reality and how we experience life. So now when we enter in the age of Aquarius, and especially once Uranus is going to move into Gemini, and even before that, Jupiter is going to move into Gemini, which is in May 25th, I believe. This Jupiter in Gemini, it's saying, well, there is more than one story. There is more than one way to look at this. Also, like I keep saying, there is more than one timeline. You can be experiencing the same thing that somebody else is experiencing in a completely different way, and having a very different experience, like having a different outlook of that, and having a different feeling connected towards that, because it depends on your filter, it depends on you, like everything that makes you who you are, your authentic self. So with all this that's taking place this week, especially this second time round, like Mercury making the trine to Jupiter, and then also Mercury will be making the second sextile to Saturn from the point of retrograde. This is still in the sign of Capricorn, and then Mercury also making the conjunction with Sun on the 22nd on a very, very early degrees of Capricorn, just before Mercury retrogrades back into the sign of Sagittarius. And as I mentioned, the last conjunction happened in Virgo. Well, Mercury was also in retrograde, and that was, I believe, just after Jupiter station retrograde. So, like I already mentioned, Mars will forever be Mars had become a ruler of the North Node in July 17th, while Mars was in the sign of Virgo. So this is why Virgo is very important, because Virgo is the hero's journey, is the process of learning and adjusting and growing and continuously, like you stand up and carry on, like, yes, there are things that happen to us which take time and place for us to heal and integrate. Virgo, healing sign in opposition with Pisces, but we keep going, and that makes us stronger than we were before. It gives us something to offer to the collective, which may support somebody else in their healing process. And is this process of hero's journey towards self-mastery, Capricorn, right? So it's no coincidence that now Mercury Capricorn, right? Because what adjustments do we need to make? What tools do we need to accumulate? And what do we need to change or heal or integrate, or any of these topics that is preventing us, or needs to be done in order for us to feel competent, to feel that you are, on your path to self-mastery, this path of self-growth, whatever that is. So having these repeating aspects taking place, plus the conjunction between Mercury and Sun, which is closing that cycle that started in the Virgo season between the two of them while Mercury was retrograde, and the next one will be in Pisces, the ending, again, dissolving of something. So between, Mercury going direct in January, and then at the end of February when they have a conjunction again, there will be more, there will be more adjustments, more things going on. There is always something going on. That's what I mean. It's never ending. There is always something going on. But with regards to this, what's going on right now this week, it's reevaluation, it's redefinition, because things are coming up, becoming conscious to us, and we have the opportunity to ask questions, because retrograde planets make us to accelerate our evolution. Why? Because we have to stop and we have to deal with it. Because most of the time we are on autopilot. Things just keep going. When the planets are direct, we just keep going. But then when the planets station retrograde and they are retrograde, that's why we say that, because people are like, well, how we can be accelerating evolution when we're going backwards? Well, because we need to reevaluate if that which you're going forward towards is still what you want. So it's like we need to have a double check with ourselves. So now Mercury, going retrograde from the sign of Capricorn to the sign of Sagittarius, with all these Sagittarian topics that's been coming up for us, it's an opportunity for us to all reevaluate our attachments to stories and belief systems and perception of realities that no longer support us. And very, very common topic of these stories at the moment is this unworthiness, where we externalize our power and we do too much. We do too much for other people because we are seeking our sense of value through the other. So we don't believe that us in our essence, because this is how we were being conditioned by the people who were conditioned the same thing. And this is how the wounding has been passed from generation to generation, this old ancestral trauma, which is saying that you have to put other people first. And like I said, it doesn't mean that we all now going to be narcissistic and not care about anyone, but it means you need to take care of you. And then when you have a full cup, then you can help others, which is why you can see that so many people who are actually, financially doing well and stuff, then they start working doing charitable work and stuff. And I mean, yeah, we can go into all the taxes and stuff, like what this also represents. But anyway, if you just look at the human nature, when once people don't have to worry about the survival anymore, just this pure survival, like, oh my God, how am I going to eat and pay my rent, right? Then usually people start expanding. They start going into like, okay, well, what else I can do? And, most of the people, because we are wired that way, because we are compassionate, empathic being, we want to help others, because once you start being happy and have abundance of whatever that it is that you want or need, then you go, oh, okay, well, I want you to be happy too. Most people do. Most people actually want everybody else to be happy, like they don't want to be like, oh, I just want to be on the top of the cloud all by myself with all my stuff, and I don't care if the rest of you is hurting and suffering. It's in many people's cases not the case. I'm not saying this is the case for everyone, because there are some very wounded individuals that don't, perceive the reality that way because of their wounding. And then of course there are people who were born to play the polarity role to help us understand that, oh yeah, there is that polarity to this, so we understand the good and bad and all this, because we are living in a dual, in the, three-dimensional reality, which is the reality experience of polarity and duality. So anyway, so going back to this, majority of people actually want to be happy, and they would like the other people to be happy, their friends, family, neighbors, and that's how it expands, because everybody's got some friends, family, and neighbors, right? So in essence, most people just want to live in a peaceful, happy world that kind of co-creates together, and people just are allowed to do their things. And like majority people, like, I mean, I don't know, obviously I can't speak for majority of people, but I don't particularly believe that majority people want to be billionaires with swimming pools and just party all day and drink margaritas and that's it. I mean, there are people who like that and enjoy that, and that's perhaps the experience they came to have, but majority people, I don't think, would enjoy that for a long time. Like, for a lot of people, that sounds like a dream because they don't have it, because their life feels like struggle, like it's this meet and ends to meet and stuff like that. But I mean, if people go on a prolonged period of holiday, and obviously once they recharge, then they want to go and do something. They want to, like, okay, what else I can do? What hobby I can take on? That's why when people retire, in many cases, they do take on hobby, or they start doing volunteering work or whatever, because they want to help, because they want to be of service, because this is the human nature for most people. Once your needs are met, then you want to give to others. This is how we wired as human collective, because we have heart, and that's the guiding force for, majority of people. So with this situation that we are experiencing at the moment, is bringing up the question, why do we not feel worthy? Why do we not feel that we deserve that? Like, if, for example, majority of people, if somebody will speak to them about someone they love, let's say people about their grandchildren, these people, like, I'm not saying everybody loves children and stuff, but okay, let's take on general example of, a very proud grandparents when somebody talks to them about their grandchildren, right? Like, of course they want the best for them, of course they want them to be happy, and they want to help, and usually they sneak them pocket money and cookies and whatever, these kind of things, because usually the grandparents have much easier relationship with the grandchildren than what they had with their own kids, because it's less pressure, right? The pressure has been removed by one generation. So this is what I mean. Like, when we look at that someone else that we love so much, like grandchildren, or even when your own child, right? At least while it's very little, and before it stops triggering you and mirroring back to you all the things that you need to resolve, we want the best for them, right? And we also think, and we believe, and we believe, and we are of the state of mind in many cases that they deserve it, that they are worthy. They will say, of course my grandchild, my granddaughter, my grandson deserves to have a good life and be paid good money and have whatever they need and not struggle like I had to, or my parents had to, or whatever, whoever had to, right? So why don't we have the same courtesy towards ourselves? Because this is how we were rewired. This is the story. If you think of yourself, and if you put yourself first, you're selfish. And what does this create? This immediate response of feeling guilty and ashamed. Not for everyone. And of course, if people did a lot of healing of themselves, the trigger might just come and go. Or sometimes they will just observe it like, oh yeah, this is how I used to respond, but I don't respond that way anymore. But I feel with this that's going on at the moment, and also Venus being in a position with Jupiter at the time of the new moon, and like all these activations that are going on with the North Node, and like trying to Chiron, everything else. And it's in Aries. Aries is about self-discovery. Aries is about you. The South Node is in Libra, which is like, no, it's no longer, we're not going to get any further, but looking up to someone else, putting them on a pedestal and saying, oh yeah, my guru, please tell me how to live my life and what I'm worth. And what should I be doing? Which is why these TV series that are going on, in some, channels and stuff, which are like portraying people of doing exactly that, giving their power away to, sect leaders or whatever, and not questioning anything. And why are they doing that? This is literally, all these things are being brought forward to our human consciousness to see it, to see it. And it's not to judge like, oh, I would never be so stupid. How they could be so stupid? How could they do that? It's not about judgment. It's literally about us to see, so there are things being mirrored to us from the collective, also through all these wars and stuff, which is like, why are they happening? When majority of people, if you ask majority of people on this planet, would you want war? Like, of course not. Majority of people would say, of course not. Why would I want war? I have enough problems in my own life, enough drama. I don't need, to worry about, some war in the world. Majority of people don't want war. So why is war happening? Well, because there is still something that obviously we are attached to with regards to the story that it, we like, it makes it okay. It makes it okay because like, oh, I don't know, this person has a different religion. This person has a different belief system or whatever. But as we know, as I keep discussing all the time with my Pluto in 9th house and Jupiter in the 1st in Aquarius, there is no such a thing as, okay, there is such a thing as universal truth, like I already said, which is the truth that is applicable to everyone at any time and without failing. It's always the truth, like I said, law of attraction, law of preservation, law of cause and effect, like all these kind of things, right? But these kind of things we were being conditioned to believe that are truth, especially throughout the Pisces age, thanks to religion in many cases, or even, certain cultural orientation. Oh yeah, this color of skin should not mix with this color of skin. This societal status should not mix with this societal state. These are all stories, okay? What of that is actually the truth? It's something that was agreed between certain individuals or group of people, and then they decide, okay, this is now our truth now. But is it really the truth? So anyway, so here we can see like microcosm, macrocosm, how like, even in the family dynamics, we decide, oh yeah, we don't like this family because this is what they do. And now we're going to pass it on from generation to generation to create this hate, towards some group of people, like for example, and I'm sure a lot of people, and now again, not trying to trigger people, but a lot of people in Germany, even now, like what, like 80 years later, people in Germany still feel the guilt and shame. I'm not saying everyone, but when you say Germany, straight away people go into the history books and like, oh, can't, whatever, and come up with stories which create like, oh, okay, this is how it is. So let's, have a certain emotional reaction, response to this story, because this is what we decided was the truth. Because this is what we decided is collectively agreed upon, right? Upon, right? You know what I mean? So now, how is all this tying up into this, what's going on in the world? Well, what's going on in the sky, which is reflected by the world, because as above, so below, as within, so without. It's always, this is something that is the truth. It's always in action, because this is literally the point. This is the point, and this is what Mercury retrograde is all about. It started in Capricorn, which is like, yeah, we have certain definition. We have certain way of approaching this world, this life, which is, we identified certain way. But let's remember, just like I said, interestingly, Moon is gonna be in Gemini for Christmas and in Virgo at New Year. We will enter 2024 with Moon, which is your inner world, in the sign of Virgo. But isn't it interesting how this Virgo archetype keeps popping up for us? Again, let's remind ourselves, what is Virgo? Virgo is the hero's journey. Virgo is about learning and adjusting, and that which you learn through your hero's journey, you can then you can then put into practice. Virgo is very practical. I'm sure people with strong Virgo, they know all about it. They're very practical people, very organized in many cases. Well, depending where your Virgo is, of course, but it's also the archetype of healing, and we know on the collective and individual level there is a lot of healing that needs to take place. And now we can go into the mutable cross, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. Well, interestingly, we have all this archetype popping up for us at the moment. Mercury is the ruler of Virgo and Gemini. Jupiter, as the ruler of the stories, ruler of Sagittarius, is gonna move into Gemini in May, right after the full moon in Sagittarius. So we can see how suddenly there is a certain theme coming up for us, which is the theme of healing, learning and adjusting. And also, what are we healing? We're healing this shame, this Virgo, this Pisces age conditioning, which made us feel we're not good enough, that we can't do something because we're not perfect. What is perfect? Well, that depends on a story you buy into, which is determined by how do you identify reality, which is Gemini, Mercury. It's all mutable. It's all mutable. None of this is set in a stone. Saturn, the most solid, the structure of the reality, is in Pisces. There is nothing solid in the world we live in right now. So, like I said, Gemini popping up, Virgo popping up, Moon in Virgo. We're going to enter New Year end 2023 and enter 2024 with Moon in Virgo. Interesting, right? And Christmas, Moon in Gemini. And then we have all these Pisces coming up, square to Neptune, and these Sagittarius topics, the stories, also all these conjunctions that are taking place, or have been taking place. New moon is a closing of one phase, a beginning of a new one. And we have all this in between, trines, sextiles, everything in between, but it's all about the story that was conceived at the time of the conjunction, which is coming to the end, because now many planets are nearing, Neptune, Pluto, Uranus, then obviously later on in spring. For us in the northern hemisphere, there will be conjunction with all these outer planets, so the stories are going to be ending. And this Mercury retrograde, and I mean the next one as well in Pisces, is a preparation for that. Because Mercury is reevaluating this matrix, this structure and context of the world that we are experiencing, that we thought it was so solid and set in a stone, and now suddenly we're realizing, but is it? And these stories, which are still playing up in our head, which is usually our initial reaction to things unless we observe, stop ourselves, and then respond in a different way, where we take the deep breath and count to 10, these are all the stories acting out. So that's why whatever is going on in a collective, whether it's the wars, whether it's whatever it is, it's just making it very obvious, very conscious to us, including this TV stuff, which I don't watch, but like on a grapevine, every now and then I hear things. They are showing us in our face, this is the story. Okay, this is the story we've been attached to. And I know we're just about to enter Capricorn season, so why am I talking about story? But Mercury is how do you identify reality, and it's just about to go back into Sagittarius, right? On the 23rd, right after it conjunct Sun in Capricorn. So why do we still operate this way? And like people might say, well, we don't have a choice. But is that really the truth? Do we really have no choice? I mean, do we really have no choice to respond to war in a different way? Well, how about if every single person that's participating, which is never the person that actually decided there is a war going on, how about every single person that has to go and participate would say, no, I'm not doing that. And now you can say, well, I can't do that. Why not? Oh, yeah, they would kill me or put me in prison. Well, yes, there is a consequence for everything. Oh, I have to feed family. Okay, well, there is a consequence for everything, but we always have choice. There is always a choice. We just being conditioned to believe there isn't a choice, and also we are being kind of, pushed or encouraged to look only at certain choice. Only look at certain direction, look certain way, which is why when I don't, but again, no judgment if you do. Mainstream media tries to help you to see things just one way. Like there's nothing ever positive. There is always just everything is negative, right? Why is that? Well, because obviously, this creates the sense of control for some and disempowerment for the others, which again is part of the same story. It's this Pisces age story, but the story is ending. So there is the opportunity now to say, okay, this lost the meaning now. Okay, it lost the meaning. I don't want to keep going on like this, because I don't want to feel like I just want to check out, or I want to just numb myself out, because otherwise I cannot go on with my life, So all these aspects, every single one of them that is taking place this week is especially through Mercury retrograde process, which will take place until January 1st. Isn't that interesting? January 1st, the beginning of the new calendar year, which we are entering with Moon in Virgo. And it's right after Jupiter stations direct, which is happening on the last day of of this year, or on the 30th or 31st, depends where you are in the world, which part of the world. So we have so much potential, so much opportunity for recognizing what we don't want, which is good. it's a starting point, but don't get attached to it. Don't hold on to what you don't want. Now that we see, that we understand through all these things that are resurfacing for us, for example, just like I said, in my practical application of astrology, the story of unworthiness. I need to do all this for other people. I need to deserve. Deserve what? Deserve to be alive? Deserve to be loved? You are love. Everybody's love. We all came from love. We return to love, So what do you need to do to deserve? Like, that's what I keep saying. And it sounds so hilarious when I say this to my clients. When a baby is born and you first hold it in your hands, do you go, hey baby, go and do something to deserve my love. Go and do something to deserve milk. Of course, nobody does that. I mean, okay, there are some wounded people. Again, let's not generalize here. Majority of people will not respond in that way. Majority of people will start cooing and like, oh, so precious, because it opens your heart chakra. It reminds you where you came from, this pure innocence and this unlimited of potential, what the life of this baby can be. It could be anything, right? So where did it change? Where we gone from that unlimited potential, divine purity of being born into this world through miracle, a pure miracle, the way babies literally even are made. It's a pure miracle. How can you have such a, in a sense, sometimes messy process that comes up with this perfection, right? So, I mean, all of that is a magic, but we just got used to it, so we don't perceive it as magic. We just think, oh, well, yeah, this is how it happens, we don't question these things. So we turn things that are magical into something that is ordinary, and things that are actually, not really that special, we turn them into magic, like trying to overachieve and do whatever. And again, there's no right and wrong, but that's what I mean. We're living in an upside down world, like everything is, most things are inverted. That's why I question things. So again, the question is, where did it change? Where did it change? Where did we change from that baby that deserves everything to these beings that have to deserve? That are feeling guilty and ashamed if they don't do something for other people, because otherwise they feel they have no worth and no value. And I'm not saying this is everybody's story, but for a lot of people, especially at this time of the year, coming up towards Christmas, which we are being conditioned, you have to do all these things, you have to give all these things and do all this extra to what we are already doing in this over-stimulating society, where it's completely disrespecting the human cycles, which is like, yeah, you're not supposed to do 100% of 100% of the time. It's not possible. Just look at the zodiac. Like I said, there is a masculine sign, feminine sign, masculine sign, feminine sign. The seasons in the nature is never just 100%, 100, what's every day of the year. Even here in Mexico, it's not sunny every day. We had cloudy weather too. Sometimes it even rains, So when did that shift? And why did it shift? Well, because it's the condition, it's the story. We send kids to school. Well, not everyone. I know this is also changing, and the whole thing will obviously have to be completely transformed because it's no longer supporting the beings that are being born these days, but that's for another conversation here. But yeah, when does it change? The environment conditions us believe that this is how it is. This is what we have to do. You have chores you have to do, you have to deserve, right? And then you get to the whatever age in your life where you start, really observing how that's being mirrored to you by your external environment, by people not respecting you, taking you for granted, not giving in the same equal measure that you give and stuff like that. And then it gets to the point where either people get sick, or they get resentful or angry, or they just stop doing that, or whatever is the outcome, which is this square, Mercury square to Neptune. What is the story we are attached to, which now dissolved, and we need to change it. And also the square that we had between Sun and Neptune, when Sun was still in a sign of Sagittarius. I mean it still is in a sign of Sagittarius. So anyway, like I said, this square is just taking place now because of the new moon that we had. Isn't it like this week? Where is the square? Let me pause this. Oh my God, I completely had a blank moment. The square is obviously taking place tonight. That's what I mean. This is the square. So this is the square. This is the square to Neptune, which is saying, is this story still holding a meaning? Really, do we want to keep going on with this story? And do you want your grandchildren one day to be in your position and feel this way about themselves? Of course not. Most people don't. So that's why all these things are coming to the surface right now, because of Mercury retrograde that is making us to redefine. And then it goes back into Sagittarius, which will bring even more of these stories into our consciousness, making another two squares to Neptune. And then eventually Mercury will move forward and say, okay, now let's try again. Let's try to define things again, because we're going to have a full moon in Cancer, which is saying, well, this is who you're becoming, you know. The new moon in Cancer was on a day when the nodes shifted into Aries and Libra, so you will have more clarity now 6 months later into who are you becoming. And then we'll have a new moon in Capricorn in January, and as I mentioned before, we will enter 2024. The first lunation will be a new moon in Capricorn, and the last lunation of 2024 will be a new moon in Capricorn. Why? Because it's an opportunity to redefine the structure of the reality you are experiencing, which is based on stories. That's why Sagittarius comes before Capricorn. Whatever you believe, you create. Whatever you believe, you find the proof for. Or even that could be just a story, right? You have to discern. Virgo, discernment. So anyway, I have to close because it's a very late hour. I've been talking for 54 minutes, even though I had a little blank moment here. But yeah, technically, busy week, very busy week. Of course, leading up towards Christmas, which I bet makes it even busier for many people. I don't celebrate Christmas. I am a complete rebel. I don't buy into any traditional things. And I come from family who is extremely traditional. So, you know, I have to... I have to be the other extreme. So I don't celebrate any of these things, but I will celebrate solstice. When it's, you know, obviously sun moving into the sign of Capricorn. So anyway, it is a very busy week, guys. You know, very busy week. There is a lot going on, and a lot of it is it's centered around Mercury retrograde, in my humble opinion, and a lot of things are becoming illuminated. So rather than just getting triggered and, you know, with the opposition, Venus in opposition to Uranus on the solstice, right, there might be an opportunity to get very triggered by other people, like, hey, why can't you respect me finally after all this, or everything that I'm doing now, making cookies for Christmas and stuff. And it's like, well, why do we give so much? You know, why do we do so much? You know, anyway, if you want to understand more that topic, then you can check out my video from yesterday where I go into depth with that. But individually and collectively, right now, we are redefining the story of our life because we have the opportunity to decide what is the story going to be from now on, going forward. So that's what Mercury retrograde is teaching us, in my opinion. Anyway, guys, I have to close because this video is getting too long. And yeah, anyway, I just feel I'm going in circles, but I really hope that this helps people to understand what this Mercury retrograde is really about. It's not just about your computer crashing or Zoom not connecting like mine. You know, there are a lot of other things, that are taking place behind the veils. And yeah, with Capricorn season, which is a feminine energy, receptive energy, we have an opportunity to sit with it and feel into it and see where we want to take it from there, because it's a cardinal sign. So I hope that you are enjoying your weekend, having a nice time. Once again, it's tonight when we have the Sun square to Neptune, so things might feel a bit confusing, or, you know, might be becoming obvious with regards to what doesn't hold a meaning, whatever it is for you. But yeah, just observe, discern, and focus on what do you want to create, not on these things you don't want. It's good to know what you don't want, but focus on what you do want. So anyway, guys, much love to everyone, and I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now.